Hello, this is a video that I was thinking about making and unsure should I say it, because such videos are normally deemed as conspiracy or, not factual, etc. But there's some elements, or there's quite a lot of truth in what I'm about to say, to be honest. And a lot of this is not mainstream. The mainstream media doesn't officially cover this, and as you know, the bulk of the news that you're currently getting about the current COVID-19 coronavirus and all sorts of other issues is always through the newspapers, the news, the digital media, and your governments. And so what I'm about to explain here, hopefully you will listen to this with an open mind and do a little bit of your own research. And what I'm saying is just advisory. It's your choice what you want to do. But this is what I'm currently seeing, is that we've known for a number of years now that the North and the South Pole are potentially going to shift. Now, the South Pole, if you look at the research papers, isn't shifting as much as the Northern Pole is. There's a 30-mile and even more so movement of the pole every year now. Now, that's a significant amount of shift on the poles. Now, what do the poles do, the North and South Poles? They actually protect, they create a magnetic field around the Earth, which protects us from the sun's radiation. And the sun's radiation, as you know, to some extent is radioactive, as you would have from a nuclear explosion or whatever. It's a similar impact, but the sun's radiation comes in, forms themselves of ionization, so it's not as strong, depending on how much magnetic field is protecting the Earth. It's the impact is not as strong as if you'd have a nuclear explosion, because that would be disastrous. But anyway, now what we're seeing with the coronavirus all around the world at the moment, where people's immune system is unable to fight a disease which is they're telling us it's new, so our immune system doesn't recognize this. But there's a bigger part to this, because our immune system at the moment, they were saying it's affecting mainly the vulnerable and the elderly, but it has now started to affect a wider range of age group. Now, this coincides very, very accurately to some extent with the impact of radiation sickness. And radioactivity normally affects the elderly and the vulnerable, as we know, much more, because their DNA structure, the DNA within them, the RNA is unstable. So the radiation has a bigger influence on some elements of, depends how your body is. So you could have a very old person absolutely fine, depends on how their body functions. But majority of science tells us that the older you get, radiation is detrimental to your body, whereas younger you are, your body can handle it better. But anyway, saying that, what we're seeing at the moment is that potentially, my thought is that we are getting battered at the moment because of the movement of the magnetic pole, the pole, the North and South, the movement of the poles. We potentially are getting hit with more radiation from the sun, which is causing, and this is a side effect, you have a lot more higher infections on your body if you have radiation sickness, because your body's immune system, your white cells, stop functioning properly. So it makes clear sense that so many people are more vulnerable to this illness, because their body's immune system is already it's already weaker because of possibly the radiation that their body has been hit with, which is out in the atmosphere. As we walk out the door, straight away the wind holds it, the sun's radiation is all around us. So radiation, again, is another invisible aspect. You can only measure it with a giga counter, a giga reader. But you won't be able to measure it with the ones that properly with the ones that we have, because they're designed to measure high amounts of radiation. So the amount of radiation we're potentially getting hit with is not that intense, but it's enough to affect our immune system in our body. So if this is happening, and we are, obviously there's a virus as well, but we also are impaired due to a weaker immune system because of radiation being hit via the magnetic field being weaker, then we need to start looking at other types of treatments as well beforehand. Kelp is a very good benefactor. It has potassium, it has some level of iodine elements in it, which is a natural booster and protector against radiation, because radiation first of all affects your thyroid gland, and the thyroid gland, and once that is compromised, then your body will very quickly start to become weak. And one of the key signs of the current COVID-19 is that a lot of people say they feel like their throat, something is stuck there, which is this area here is where your thyroid resides, and potentially this is because their thyroid is swelling up because of the radiation, and then once that's kicked in, then boom, your immune system starts to fall apart, and anything that's hitting your body in terms of viruses, bacteria, etc., it will be very, very, very efficient in damaging your body. That's why a lot of the people are getting pneumonia. And pneumonia is something that you get in very, very cold weather, or if you're, if you've been wet for a very long time and the climate's very cold. And this thing, COVID-19, is not simply just not affecting countries which are cold, but people are getting pneumonia in very hot weather, which again tells you that your immune system is actually compromised, it's become weak, which again leads to what I'm stating here is that your body is getting hit with radiation due to the movement of the poles. So my advice is that, yes, what the governments are telling you, don't go out, walk around much, because there's a lot more radiation outside. But also on top of that, yes, take precaution, but also take potassium iodide, and make sure you check how much you need to check. You can't take too much quantity of it, etc. But as a supplement, you should take it. And you should have some additional stored as well at home, just in case, with slightly higher potency. But but be very careful. Like I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. So do your research properly. But kelp is a good way of doing it. But because we're already being hit, but I believe we're already getting hit, you need something a bit more effective. So protect your thyroid gland, and if you're able to do this, I believe you will be in a better position to stay healthy in this current crisis. But I do believe that the other thing I forgot to mention is that we're seeing earthquakes, we're seeing storms, we're seeing volcanoes exploding around the world, we're seeing all sorts of catastrophes due to climate. And one of the biggest signs of the pole shift is that fish tend to be unable to recognize what direction they're going, mammals, and they end up beaching themselves, like you've seen whales and dolphins and all sorts of, because the magnetic field has gone crazy, so their built-in receptor is unable to recognize where they're going. So that's a big sign. Also birds, and we've seen lots of issues with how thousands and thousands of birds around the world have been found dead all of a sudden, because they haven't been able to understand why this is happening. But one thing we have to understand, that animals have a built-in receptor to magnetic field, and they are more receptive to changes in nature. Therefore, these signs are all there. These are obviously, these are natural creations of the universe. We can't say this is man-made, but a lot of the things that we are doing currently is there are groups out there benefiting financially because they know that this is what's going on with the with the earth, but the story's not being rolled out like that. It's rolled out as in terms of a massive illness, which is an illness because your immune system's compromised. But we're seeing a group out there which is definitely profiteering from this. So unfortunately, that's what my take on this is. But my advice is listen to the government's advice, stay indoors, but also do some research on the pole shifts and take some additional supplements like potassium iodide. You're definitely getting hit with radiation and your body's immune system is compromised. Thank you.